Hi, my astrology family. Welcome to my December 2024 reading, monthly reading, horoscope reading. This is going to be a pretty interesting month. Just so you know, though, I do tropical astrology, and I'm dealing with whole sign houses also. And if you want to check out my website at logicalastrology.com, I have lots of freebies there for you to check out. A free weekly reading, a free monthly reading, and there's lots more there. So go ahead and check that out when you get a chance. And um, I'm going to start out by giving you a brief overview of the month, and then I'm going to go into each sign individually and break it down for each sign. Um, there's a lot going on in December. It's kind of a mixed bag. I think the month is going to start out a little more difficult. By the mid-month, it should be really pretty nice and feel pretty good. It might also get difficult again at the end of the month. But there are three lunations this month. There's a new moon on the 1st in Sagittarius and a new moon on the 31st in Capricorn. And there's also a full moon mid-month in Gemini. The Sagittarius new moon should really help get you in the holiday spirit and maybe help you get your holiday shopping started and maybe even finished and before it's over with, because a new moon or a full moon for that matter will last at least 2 weeks, the energy, and it could last longer, especially with the Sagittarius new moon. It could last for up to 6 months. And like I said, the Sagittarius new moon should give us, a good spirit, but unfortunately, at the end of the month, the Capricorn new moon is gonna possibly bring in some challenges and, maybe some consequences if we overspent. So just make sure you stay within your budget, and you really keep that budget in mind at all times when you're doing your Christmas shopping or your holiday shopping. And there are two planets that are retrograde this month or going retrograde, and that is Mercury, which is already retrograde starting last month, and it will be retrograde until the 15th. And then Mars, which is retrograde, is going retrograde on the 6th. Now, whenever planets are retrograde, just keep in mind it's best to keep that energy internalized, and you might not really have a choice but to keep that energy more internalized. So it might be hard to start new things. It might be better. It's going to be a lot better to maybe work on things that you want to start or start planning things, and or to kind of redo things that you've already started or already initiated, maybe revamp certain things that you've been working on. And then Venus will trine Jupiter, and that's probably going to be the easiest aspect of the month. That you should feel really good then, although it will be really easy then to overspend as well or overindulge. And then there's a Mars Pluto opposition, and that's been we had that come into exact last month, and it's going to do it again this month, and then once again yet in January. And this is a really difficult aspect, and it can bring some pretty ugly things. Like for instance, the woman who tried to poison her husband and ended up poisoning 4 other people as well because he shared his food. And I think that was in Africa. That's a very Mars-Pluto opposition type of aspect. Because it can be uglier than usual, uglier than you would have could have imagined. Then there's the Saturn squaring Jupiter, and that Jupiter can either soften the blow or it can exaggerate it, because that's what Jupiter does, it exaggerates things. So watch out for that one as well. I'm going to go ahead and get into the breakdown for each month. Now keep in mind, it's best to use your rising sign. You can use sun or moon sign for that matter, but moon sign is going to be more of an internalized energy, and the sun sign can work too, but I think what's most accurate is going to be your rising sign. So for Aries rising, Sagittarius new moon, it's going to bring in that energy around children, love relationships, and creativity. And so if you plant those seeds, and initiate something in that area, you'll see the results later. And especially because this is before Mars goes retrograde, you might be able to plant those seeds a little easier than you can after the 6th. Then on the 2nd, Venus will trine Jupiter, and you might meet people that are very different from the type of people you would normally associate with, because Uranus, kind of brings in the alien. It brings in things that are very different, and doesn't like follow the normal standards. So it can be somebody that's very eccentric that you meet. And so don't be afraid of this. This is normal for this time, and you could be surprised at how good these relationships turn out to be. But it can also be, since it is a trine, it's probably going to bring in a good energy, a good positive energy. But sometimes you never know with Uranus. It can feel really difficult while it's happening, even if it really does help you in the long run. And then the sun will square Saturn, and that could bring in some restrictions around traveling, around higher education, around teaching. So just be aware of that, and just you might have to redo certain things with the Mercury retrograde too. So things may not flow quite as easily as you expect, but just hang in there and keep trying. And then Venus will go into Aquarius, and freedom's going to become pretty important at that point. And especially around artistic endeavors, freedom to express yourself and freedom to be who you are is an important thing when Venus is in Aquarius, especially for minority groups and women and things like that. And then Mercury will oppose Jupiter also on the 4th. And it can bring difficulties around communication, but it could also just expand communication, maybe even to a point where it's almost too much. And then on the 5th, Mercury will conjunct the sun. And, communication could be highlighted, or transportation might also be highlighted right now. And then Mars will retrograde in Leo until February 23rd. So you've already been feeling this because we were in pre-retrograde shadow, which basically means we were already going through the area that Mars is going to go back over. So it's kind of just like redoing things, rethinking things, reevaluating. So it's good to, like I said, internalize this energy and be aware that things that you do now may have to be redone, may have to, um, you may not, it might not be a one and done, unfortunately, at this time. And then on the 7th, Jupiter opposes the sun, and it could really, bring in a lot of joy, and especially around your friends and social groups, social networks. So enjoy that energy. And then, well, I mean, an opposition with Jupiter is not always a bad thing, although, it can uh expand whatever is happening with the sun, which can be a good thing, but it could also be a difficult thing in some cases. And then Venus will conjunct Pluto. So you might, there might be more desire for power, um, having control of things, and, just intensity in relationships or in your relationships involving your career. And then on the 12th, Venus opposes Jupiter. I mean, Venus opposes Mars, and there may be more conflict in relationships, especially in the home or with your family. And then on the 12th also, the Gemini full moon, finalizing or presenting something, or, bringing something out into the world is usually what you want to do on a full moon, but with 2 planets retrograde right now, um, you know, that may not be the best thing with this energy, or, just the planting seeds part again, just throwing those seeds out there. You don't necessarily have to go all out immediately. Just start thinking about it, start planning it. And that's kind of what you want to use a full moon for. And in Gemini, it really is, it could be writing, it could be any kind of communication, a podcast, or things like that. And especially since Gemini's and Sagittarius, podcasts are really getting big right now because of that. So, doing something like podcasts is a good idea at this time. And then, yeah, and also, transportation could become, illuminated right now. And then on the 18th, the sun will square Neptune, and, things that have been hidden in the past might be visible now, especially when it comes to travel, teaching, or higher learning, or your beliefs for that matter. And then Venus will trine Jupiter and on the 19th. And, this is something to look forward to. Maybe at that point you'll have all your Christmas shopping done, and you can just have fun and enjoy yourself with your family, with your kids, with people you care about. But it is important to, watch out for overindulgences this time, because that's also easy to do right now. And then Saturn will square Jupiter on the 24th. And, the day before Christmas, that's when the reality kind of sets in about, oh, how much was spent? How much did I overindulge? And so we may have to have consequences around that, or there may be things that we see that we really overdid. And then on the 27th, Mercury will square Saturn. And there could be difficulties around communication, and or difficulties just, moving around freely, being physical, and or in your local environment especially. And then the Capricorn new moon, on the 31st, it's time to, think about your career, plan new things or start new things when it comes to your career. And maybe that's a good way to get the new year started. It's just start planning that so that you're prepared next year to be successful. Now for Taurus, the Sagittarius new moon, um, could, be a, time to plant seeds again. And it could be a time to start things, just throw things out there that might turn into something later. Doesn't even have to be that you're going full force on a new project. And then Venus will trine Uranus on the 2nd. And people could, you might bring in different people into your life than you normally would hang out with, or normally would even give the time of day. It's good to open your horizons at this point and, allow new things into your life. And then the sun will square Saturn on the 4th, and that could bring some restrictions, especially around travel or higher learning. And then Venus will go into Aquarius, and freedom is going to become more important at this time while Venus is in Aquarius. Maybe there will be people fighting for freedom a little bit more, especially when it comes to human rights. And then Mercury will go into Jupiter also on the fourth. And that, or I mean, Mercury will oppose Jupiter, and that could bring difficulties around communication. And it could bring in, like, especially because there's mutual reception between Mercury and Jupiter, which means Mercury is in Jupiter's sign and Jupiter is in the sign that Mercury rules. And so these signs can communicate a lot better, but they're kind of opposing ideas, basically, which Jupiter is higher learning, Mercury is learning, like elementary school level learning, or just learning everything, just gathering information. And Jupiter is about the higher mind and higher learning. And Mercury is more like elementary school, Jupiter is college. And so they're kind of opposing, but if you bring those two things together, which this aspect really does, it could be, you know, something like mercurial, like writing, but expanded to another level, which is Jupiter. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this, and especially for each of us individually. Then the 5th, Mercury will conjunct the sun, and communication or transportation will be more of a focus. Then Mars will retrograde in Leo until February 23rd again. Now, um, this this is a difficult energy, but internalizing it, with Mars, you do not want to externalize it, especially while it's retrograde. You don't want to, like, go off on people or initiate lawsuits, or initiate anything with people that um is external, because you're probably going to lose if you do it this time. So I would suggest, trying to keep that internal. A really good way to internalize Mars, you don't want to just ignore it, because then it will become explosive. So it's really good to exercise, maybe plan a new exercise routine and things like that would be good during this time. Then on the 7th, Jupiter opposes the sun. And that that could, bring a lot of really kind of kind of outgoing energy. You might be doing things out and about more than you normally do, which can be stressful at times, but try to enjoy it as much as you can, because Jupiter can really bring in some joy in your life. And then on the 7th, also Venus will conjunct Pluto, and that can, really bring in these power issues around what you can control. So it's important to realize what you can control and what you can't. And it's also important to let go of things that aren't working in your relationships, or, especially around career. And then Venus will oppose Mars on the 12th, and that can bring in conflicts around relationships or home and family, especially those types of relationships, home and family relationships, relationships with your parents. And then on the 12th, there's a full moon, and it's good on a full moon to finalize projects, to present something that you have been working on. This full moon might be an exception just because we've got 2 planets retrograde, but it should still, be a time that you can finalize things that have to do with writing, that have to do with transportation. And so that's a good way to use this energy. And then the sun will square Neptune. And there might be things that have been hidden that you will see more clearly now. And especially around travel, teaching, and higher learning. Because the sun is in Sagittarius. Then Venus will trine Jupiter. And that is kind of the highlight of the month. This is when things, should feel probably the best this month. And, it is right before the holidays or right around the holidays. And so you might be spending more time with friends and family and people you care about. So enjoy that. And then Saturn will square Jupiter on the 24th. And that's when maybe you will start to see where you've overindulged, where you spent a little too much, or things like that. And there might be consequences you see coming in because of that. Then Mercury will square Saturn, and there could be difficulties around communication, or being able to move. You might get stiffness or things like that. And especially when it comes to moving around your local neighborhood and things like that. And then the Capricorn new moon on the 31st is a time to initiate plans, around your career, around education as well. Education would be a really good thing to start working on at this point. Any plans that you have for higher learning, especially, or spirituality, spiritual learning. So that's all I have for Taurus. I'm gonna move on to Gemini. And on the 1st, there's the Sagittarius new moon. And this can help you get started on holiday preparation. It can also help you to make travel plans. And then Venus will trine Uranus on the 2nd. And sudden unexpected changes are, probably going to be coming up around debt, taxes, or money you get from other people, such as inheritance and your own business. So, I mean, this is probably likely to be positive changes, but sometimes even when it's a really positive change, it doesn't always feel good because change can be difficult, and that's what Uranus brings in. And then on the 4th, the sun will square Saturn, and there could be restrictions around relationships, and there could be restrictions around fun and enjoyment. You might have to like really buckle down at that point. And also put some restrictions on how much you're spending, how much you're indulging, you know. And then on the 4th also, Venus will go into Aquarius. And while Venus is in Aquarius, you might want to do things a little differently, especially when it comes to travel, higher learning, or your beliefs. Then someone could come into your life with very different beliefs too, and maybe you might have to open your mind a little bit. And especially when it comes to topics like equality and social justice and things like that. And then on the 4th, Mercury will oppose Jupiter. And this could be a really good time for communicating, especially around relationships. And then on the 5th, Mercury will conjunct the Sun. Um, so sometimes you can communicate just by being with someone, and you don't actually even have to say a word. And it's just kind of that energy, you know. Then on the 6th, Mars goes retrograde in Leo. And it will stay retrograde until the 23rd, but we've already been in pre-retrograde shadow. So some of the things that we've been dealing with, or even things that we've initiated over the last couple of weeks, 2, 3 weeks, we might have to redo or go over again or rethink. Then on the 7th, Jupiter will oppose the Sun, and this could help to help get you noticed, you know, and be very visible. Then on the 7th, also, Venus will conjunct Pluto, and other people might be surprised at how intense you are. Because Pluto and Venus together can bring intensity, can also bring in control issues. And this could be either positive or negative. It depends on how you work with this energy partly too. And your desires might be stronger now too, more intense. And then when Venus opposes Mars on the 12th, just be careful of arguments. And sometimes, you know, if you work things out the right way during this transit, you can bring lasting peace in relationships. This is really a good time to work out. It can be a little bit contentious. It can start out with arguments, but if you can take the time to turn those arguments into, you know, negotiations or just communicating, then things can actually get better. Then the Gemini full moon on the 12th also. It's a great time for you to present yourself to the world, especially if you're looking for like new relationships or a new job or things like that. And then on the 18th, the Sun will square Neptune. So whenever the Sun square is in contact with Neptune, but in a square, it can be a difficult thing, but things come into the light, you know, things that have been hidden, because Neptune really is about hiding things or hidden things. And when the Sun shines on it, or in any way in contact with it, things are going to come out that have been hidden, because the Sun really makes things visible. Um, so this is probably going to be more in regard to relationships or marriage. Then on the 19th, Venus will trine Jupiter. Rules and restrictions might, you know, be more, it might be cramping your style. It might make things difficult, and especially, you know, it, there may be consequences for too much fun or having had too much fun or too much indulgence. And then on the 27th, the Mercury will square Saturn, and debt might, you know, be a prominent issue that you are communicating about, you may have to communicate with your family about things like that. And then the Capricorn new moon on the 31st. It's a good time to try to, plant seeds for eating better or exercising more or changing your daily routine so that you're you're more healthy. So that's kind of an important thing at this point during this new moon. So just plant those seeds and, really try to change your routines so that they work better for you. That's all I have for Gemini. Now, for Cancer rising, the Sagittarius new moon can plant seeds for, new beginnings around pets. Might be a good time to get a new pet. Um, and maybe volunteer work, service to others, and then um maybe changing up your daily routines and your health in some way or your eating habits. Then on the second, Venus will trine Uranus, and you might have, you know, surprises or hopefully positive surprises around relationships, such as marriage or business partners. And Uranus doesn't always feel positive when it's happening, but it can, you know, really make positive changes for you. Then on the 4th, the sun will square Saturn, and there could be restrictions or difficulties around work or pets or health or daily routines. Um, and also, maybe around travel or higher education as well. So there could be some restrictions or some setbacks or roadblocks that you have to, kind of go around, overcome, whatever. Then on the 4th, Venus will go into Aquarius. And you might really have to look at your debt and or taxes or other forms of money that you hold in connection with other people, like banking, things like that. It might be a good time to, communicate about these things. And then on the 5th, Mercury will conjunct the sun. And again, communication might be highlighted, but um, you know, this mutual reception we're having between Mercury and the sun, which means both signs are in the other signs, or both planets are in the other planet's ruling house. It really is a very beneficial thing. These planets are really working together. And so even though it's an opposition, it could be very beneficial for you, and especially combining these energies. And it really is about communication or any kind of learning, but it can expand that type of thing. And then on the 6th, Mars will go retrograde in Leo. Oh, yeah, Mars will go retrograde in Leo until February 23rd. Now, it's not a good time to have surgeries. It's not a good time, or especially elective surgeries. Obviously, I am not a doctor, and so I can't give you medical advice, but if you can, if it's something that is not an elective surgery, I would suggest waiting until after this, because a lot of times you're just not satisfied with the results, if you have it during Mars retrograde. And Mars really does rule surgeries. So it's best to, plan it, find a good doctor, do the research on the doctor if you're going to do elective surgeries, and wait until after at least the 23rd before actually have the surgery, if that's possible, if it's reasonable. But of course, if there's an emergency or there's surgery you have to have right away, don't put that off. And listen to your doctor. And then on the 6th, well, and then on the 7th, Jupiter will oppose the sun. And this is a really great time for you to, you know, show off who you are. And especially when it comes to work, health, and your daily routines or exercise. And yeah, anyway, then Venus will conjunct Pluto also on the 7th. And, you might have more power in your situations around debt or taxes or money, or you might desire more power. Um, so, and, and money you hold with others is, really just like money from your business, money from banking, things like that. And then Venus will oppose Mars on the 12th. And, just watch out for arguments. Although, if you do have arguments, it is a time that if you can turn it into more of a negotiation or communication where you're actually listening to each other, it can bring lasting peace to these relationships. So, um, don't be afraid of the arguments. Just try to keep them civil, keep them polite, and respect the other person. And that can really help, change that situation. Then the Gemini full moon on the 12th also. It can kind of help you with things that you don't have control of, or it can help you to see those things that you don't have control of and understand what you have control of and what you don't. Or it can just make those things more important to you right now. Then on the 18th, the sun will square Neptune. And there might be things that you previously were not able to see that will now be visible when it comes to work, pets, health, or daily routines. Then Venus will trine Jupiter, and on the 19th, this trine is probably it probably is the best aspect of the month. So you got to enjoy that. And, being around the holidays, maybe you're just going to be spending more time with friends and people, you know, that you care about. So enjoy that time and just focus on, doing what you want to do at that time, if it's possible. Then on the 24th, the sun will square Jupiter, and this could bring restrictions around, you know, being able to spend time by yourself, having peaceful time to yourself. Or it could bring some kind of difficult endings. Um, but sometimes things have to end for you to move on, but sometimes these can be difficult. But then Mercury will square Saturn on the 27th. And there could be more communication, or it could be blockages to communication, or communication could be kind of difficult around work, health, or pets. Or you just might not be able to communicate as much as you would like to in this area. And then the Capricorn new moon on the 31st, it's a great time to initiate relationships or ways to improve your current relationships. So, sometimes it's about doing the work too. And that's all I had for Cancer. Now let's go on to Leo. So my Leos, the Sagittarius new moon on the 1st, it's a great time to plant seeds for, having more fun with your family and uh, at home, enjoying yourself, setting up your environment so that you can have more fun and enjoyment. And then on the 2nd, Venus will trine Uranus, and that could bring changes to your work, health, or daily routines, or pets. Now, this could be relationships at work as well that might be surprising, might bring in people that you don't normally associate with. So don't be afraid of these types of relationships, because sometimes you can find out things find out these people, certain people that you normally wouldn't associate are much better for you. And then the sun will square Saturn on the 4th, and that can bring restrictions around travel, teaching, or higher learning, and beliefs. And then also on the 4th, Venus will go into Aquarius, and there might be more spontaneity around relationships. Then on the 4th, also Mercury will oppose Jupiter, and it's a good time for communication. Well, it could be a good time. I mean, it could be that there's too much communication and it could be a little overwhelming, but it could also be that communication is a little more joyful right now too. As long as you don't overdo it, and the people around you don't overdo it with the communication. Then on the 5th, Mercury will conjunct Sun, and communication at home will be highlighted. And then on the 6th, Mars is going to go retrograde in Leo, and it will be retrograde until the 23rd. And that might, lower your motivation or your energy during that time. It might be harder to get motivated, but keep in mind, it's important to just keep it internalized. You don't have to be doing anything in an external fashion. You can be thinking about things and planning your next steps. And then on the 7th, Jupiter will oppose the sun, and this is a time that you can really be more visible, be a little brighter around your friends, and your friends might notice you more or pay attention to you more. And then on the 7th, Venus will conjunct Pluto, and this could affect your work, daily routines, pets, and things like exercise, health, eating habits. And it can bring a little more intensity around that. Maybe you will have a little more intensity around getting in shape or things like that. Or you just might be a workaholic at this time. So be careful about that. And, it's good to keep it, keep that balance so that you don't really overdo it too much. Then Venus will oppose Mars on the 12th. And this could bring arguments at work, but it's also a time when you can really work things out with coworkers and bring, come to an understanding with people. So that's important too now. And then also on the 12th, there's the Gemini full moon, and this can help with internal challenges, especially if you use this energy to, revitalize yourself, replenish yourself. And so it's a good time to have some downtime and relax too. And then the sun will square Neptune on the 18th, and it could bring things out into the open that maybe you hadn't noticed or hadn't seen before regarding debts or family, or maybe both of those things, debts around family. Then on the 19th, Venus will trine Jupiter, and this could, really make you feel good and feel loved, and have a great time with family or friends. Then on the 24th, Saturn's going to square Jupiter, and restrictions around friends or social groups might, be kind of difficult to handle right now. There might be something that comes up, so you don't get to spend as much time around friends, or maybe just you realize how much you've been overindulging. So you have to like really put some restrictions on that. On the 27th, Mercury will square Saturn, and family communication might be affected by this. So there might be some restrictions around communicating with family, or just difficulties in that area, or you might have more on your shoulders when it comes to family. Then there's the Capricorn new moon on the 31st. And it's a great time for initiating better habits, starting planning those New Year's resolutions, I suppose, and just, you know, trying to be a little healthier. Then for Virgo, December 2024, the Sagittarius new moon, it's a great time to plant seeds for, new beginnings with neighbors or siblings or around your neighborhood or in your daily day-to-day commute and that kind of thing. Things that are in your local neighborhood. Then on the 2nd, Venus will trine Uranus, and I could bring a lot of surprises around children, creativity, or love relationships. And on the 4th, the Sun will square Saturn. Restrictions or difficulties around the home or family might be something you're dealing with right now. And on the 4th, also, Venus will go into Aquarius. So there could also be more spontaneity around work or daily routines, with pets, or, volunteer work or service to others, that type of thing. And then also on the 4th, Mercury will oppose Jupiter. It's a great time to, well, I mean, there's going to be communication here. It might be a little too much communication, but it's important to get, things out in the open at this point, and just be careful that you don't really overdo it with the communication. I mean, I think you can, be aware that you don't have to say too much. And it might be hard to tell where enough is enough right now. Then on the 5th, Mercury will conjunct Sun, and communication is going to be important, and especially around family. Then Mars will go retrograde in Leo on the 23rd, and it can bring a lot lower energy than you normally would have. So, I guess being winter is probably a good time to stay in and get things done in the house, and but you might even have less motivation for that. You might just want to do things you don't normally do. And then on the 7th, Jupiter will oppose the Sun. And I mean, even though Jupiter, the opposition is a negative aspect, with Jupiter, sometimes it can actually bring in positive and just help you to really shine when it comes to the Sun, and be who you are, and you know how you're going to be seen, especially by friends, you know might be important now. Then on the 7th, also, Venus will conjunct Pluto, and this could bring in more powerful relationships at work. It can bring in more intensity at work, with relationships at work at least. Then on the 12th, Venus will oppose Mars, and that could bring arguments at work or with friends. But it's a time when you can really gain lasting peace if you can negotiate with people that you're associating with. And then the Gemini full moon on the 12th, it's a great time to complete things, to show off what you've been working on and present it into the world. And um, especially when it comes to things around your career. And then on the 18th, the sun will square Neptune. And whatever the sun touches, it kind of illuminates and it shines a light on it. So if things have been hidden, because that's kind of what Neptune deals with, it's hidden things, especially when it comes to your home and family, these things might come out now, whether you want them to or not. And it might be that you want them to and other people don't, or vice versa. But on the 19th, Venus will trine Jupiter, and it's a great time to really enjoy the holiday season and to spend time with friends and family. And so it could be a really good time. And especially too, career relationships, career relationships could be prominent, and you might be spending more time with people that you work with or that associate with in your career, or long-term relationships as well. It can really they can really feel good at this time. And then on the 24th, Saturn will square Jupiter, and you could have some difficulties in your career or some consequences, or you might have to work more to pay for all those holiday expenses, or you might have to realize that you're going to have to work more because of that. Then on the 27th, Mercury is going to square Saturn, and there might be limited communication with your family. Maybe you're tired of spending time with them after the holidays and you've had enough. But then on the 31st, the Capricorn new moon, um, it's a new moon is always a good time for planting seeds, for initiating new things or thinking up new things. Sometimes it's just a thought at first, and then you have to act on it. So that's kind of what the seed planting is, just those thoughts that help you to, come up with the ideas to move forward on something. But this is especially, for you regarding love relationships or children or creativity for that matter. All right, that's all I had for Virgo. Have a great month, Virgos. I'm moving on to Libra. So my Librans, this is as I've said, this is an interesting month, and especially for you because there are a lot of Venus things going on, and Libra is ruled by Venus. And on the 1st, there's a Sagittarius new moon, and it's a great time to plant seeds for new things, initiating new things, or coming up with new ideas regarding your home and family or real estate or your heredity, your family roots. And then on the 2nd, Venus will trine Uranus, and that can bring really positive surprises around children or creativity or in love relationships. On the 4th, the Sun will square Saturn. Restrictions or difficulties around siblings and neighbors or transportation might come up right now. And Saturn almost always brings in either more work or restrictions or just difficulties that you have to overcome. And then also on the 4th, Venus will go into Aquarius. And so you might really enjoy spontaneity in love relationships or with your children or around creativity. So you might come up with ideas that you haven't thought of before when it comes to creative endeavors, or even your your own business for that matter, anything entrepreneurial. And then on the 4th, Mercury will oppose Jupiter. And it's a great time for communication, but you can't, just be careful that you don't overdo it with communication. And that could be, around travel, teaching, or higher learning as well. And so there's a lot of that involved in this, is that travel, teaching, higher learning type, and your beliefs too are a big part of this aspect, but just make sure you don't overdo it with things, because this can bring, too much, an energy of just too much. Maybe when you plan your vacation, you're like trying to do everything when you really should be doing one thing a day instead of 10 things a day, because that could be a little overwhelming. And then on the 5th, the Mercury will conjunct the Sun, and communication might be important now, especially when it comes to neighbors or siblings, or your neighborhood, or your local commute. And then on the 6th, Mars will go retrograde in Leo, and it'll stay retrograde until the 23rd. So your motivation might be a little lower. You might not be as brave as usual. You might. So it's good to keep things internalized, especially when it comes to anger, or, starting lawsuits or things like that. Maybe it's better to stay in the planning stage and really rethink things rather than acting on them at this point. Then Jupiter will oppose the Sun, and you're probably going to be more focused on your neighbors, your siblings, or your transportation. There might be something with your transportation that you have to pay attention to. Then on the 7th, the Venus will conjunct Pluto, and this is happening in your 4th house of home and family. So you could feel more powerful at home. There could be more conflicts at home, but it's good to pay attention to what you have control of and what you don't. And maybe this will help you to figure that out too. And then Venus will oppose Mars on the 12th. So this could bring arguments at work, could bring, or with your family, but it's time to, you know, try to negotiate things, because if you can negotiate with people and try to see their side of things, it's a good time to come to some kind of agreement that will help you quite a bit in the future. And then the Gemini full moon on the 12th, it's a great time to complete things that you've been working on and, put it out into the world, especially when it comes to teaching or higher learning or travel. And then the Sun will square Neptune on the 18th. So there might be things that have been hidden that are going to be visible to you now regarding neighbors, siblings, or transportation. Then on the 19th, Venus will trine Jupiter, and it's probably going to be a pretty good feeling aspect. So it's a good time to just really enjoy all the work that you've done this month and spend time with family or friends. Then on the 24th, oh, okay, then on the 24th, Saturn will square Jupiter, and there could be difficulties or restrictions around travel or higher education. And these can bring some delays. So, if you're traveling during this time, just be patient, because there might be things that happen that make it difficult. If you're traveling home for the holidays or something like that, just be careful and be patient. Then on the 27th, Mercury will square Saturn, and there could be more communication with, or there could be difficulties around communication with neighbors or siblings, and maybe a lack of communication here could bring some problems. And then on the 31st, the Capricorn new moon, it's a great time for initiating things around your home or family. And Libra, have a great month. That's all I have for you now. I'm going to move on to Scorpio. So Scorpios, the Sagittarius new moon is, you should be planting seeds now around your finances or how you earn your income, maybe looking for a better job, a higher paying job to make things a little easier for yourself. And then Venus trine Uranus on the 2nd could bring surprises in your neighborhood or with your siblings, unexpected things. Usually this is a positive aspect, but like I've been saying, it's not always positive when it happens because change is difficult sometimes, even if it is going to be change that is beneficial. Then the sun will square Saturn on the 4th, and that could bring restrictions or difficulties around siblings or neighbors, transportation, and that could make you have to slow down a little bit, in these areas. Then on the 4th, Venus is going to go into Aquarius, and spontaneity could be something, that you kind of have to welcome in with your family and your home. And it could make things, could make you bring in art that you normally wouldn't ever consider into your home or something like that. And then on the 4th, Mercury will oppose Jupiter. And so, you know, it can it can bring like maybe a little too much communication around finances, maybe a little more than you would normally want around your finances and how you earn your income. And then Mercury will conjunct the sun on the 5th. And there might be more of a focus on finances again. And then Mars will go retrograde from February 23rd to the 25th. And so, yeah, your motivation might be low. It might be, and especially because Mars rules your chart, it could really have a big effect on you. It might be really hard for you to get motivated to do the things that you need to do at this time. But, give yourself a little more time because things might take a little longer and just getting things started might be really difficult. And then on the 7th, Jupiter will oppose the sun. So you might be more focused on your neighbors or siblings, transportation, your local neighborhood, or your daily commute. And also on the 7th, Venus will conjunct Pluto. And that could bring, it could help you to feel in control or more powerful at home, or at least have the desire to have more power and control at home or with your family. And then on the 12th, Venus will oppose Mars. So there could be conflicts around education or travel. And then also on the 12th, the Gemini full moon, it's a great time to, bring things out into the world or complete a project that you've been working on, especially in the area of debt, taxes, and maybe money from your own business. On the 18th, the sun will square Neptune. And there might be some things that you have not been able to see clearly that could be visible right now, or things that you've been trying to hide that suddenly they're out there for the whole world to see. So watch out for that one. And then Venus will trine Jupiter on the 19th. And so it's a good time to just enjoy your time with people and with your, especially with your siblings and your neighbors, might be a good time to have your friends over, your neighbors over for dinner or your siblings over, and just enjoy spending time with them. And then on the 24th, Saturn's going to square Jupiter. So maybe overindulgences might be the highlight here, how you've overdone it, how you've overindulged yourself during this season. But it can also bring restrictions around your taxes, what you have control over or what you have power over. Um, then Mercury's going to square Saturn on the 27th, and your income or your possessions could be more limited at that point. And then the Capricorn new moon will help you to initiate new beginnings in your neighborhood or with your siblings. Now, for Sagittarius, uh, rising and Sagittarius sun, the new moon obviously is a great one for you because it's in your sign. So it could be a good time to initiate changes around your appearance or your physical body, maybe get that exercise routine going that you've always wanted to start. And then Venus will trine Uranus on the 2nd. And so this is going to highlight, bring changes, sudden changes possibly around finances and your possessions. And so sudden unexpected changes might be happening in this area. And then on the 4th, Sun will square Saturn, and that could bring restrictions or difficulties around physical body or your appearance. Then on the 4th, Venus will go into Aquarius, and that could bring more spontaneity, especially when it comes to your neighborhood or your transportation, your cars, or your siblings. Also on the 4th, Mercury will oppose Jupiter in communication around relationships. It could bring difficulty, but it could also bring just more communication. And then Mercury will square Sun on the 5th. And there could be more thought or communication around your appearance. It might become more important right now. And then on the 6th, Mars will go retrograde until February 23rd. And you might have less motivation, especially when it comes to traveling, higher education, or your beliefs. You might not be willing to fight for your beliefs as much. And also could bring less motivation around debt, taxes, or inheritance. And then on the 7th, Jupiter will oppose the Sun, and your relationships might become more important right now. There might be a light shining on relationships. Yeah, and then and you might not have as much time for your self-care, because you're more focused on relationships. On the 7th, Venus will conjunct Pluto. And so there could be, more intensity around relationships with neighbors or siblings. You could have power struggles, or power and what you have control of might be important right now. On the 12th, Venus opposes Mars, And there could be more arguments around with siblings or neighbors. But it is important to try to negotiate with them because it is a time when you can gain a lasting peace if you can learn to negotiate with them or try to work out things that you haven't worked out in the past. And the Gemini full moon also on the 12th is a good time to, bring a new relationship to your parents, to meet your parents or to meet your siblings, somebody that you're in a new relationship with. Then on the 18th, the sun will square Neptune, and that can shine a light or bring things out into the open around your home and family. Or these things could become even more tightly hidden. Then on the 19th, Venus will trine Jupiter, and that could really bring some positive energy around your finances or around your long-term relationships. You might really enjoy time with your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend at this point. Then on the 24th, the Saturn Jupiter square can bring difficulties around relationships. On the 27th, Mercury will square Saturn, and there might be some restrictions around your physical body or your appearance or what you think of yourself or what others think of you. Then on the 31st, Capricorn new moon, it's a great time for initiating new beginnings around finances, how you earn your income. Like, it might be a good time to look for a new job. And if you're tired of putting up with low pay or being treated badly at work, it's a good time to initiate, getting a different job or even getting a raise at your current job. All right, that's all I have for Sagittarius. Now I'm moving on to Capricorn. Whoops. So, on the first, that Sagittarius new moon is going to be in your 12th house. So, that could bring new beginnings around maybe things that you don't have control of, maybe spending more time by yourself, um, giving yourself a little more downtime, things like that. And then Venus will trine Uranus on the 2nd, and it could bring positive surprises, like sudden surprises around children, creativity, or your own self-image. The sun will square Saturn on the 4th, and that could bring in difficulties around, things that you can't control. That might become more highlighted at this time, and especially when it comes to restricting things in that area. And then on the 4th, Venus will go into Aquarius. And so that might bring sudden, sudden changes or just more spontaneity and freedom around finances. On the 4th, Mercury will oppose Jupiter. And so there might be more communication or just thinking about your health, or also things you have no control over, things that such as hospitals or jails or things that, yeah, you don't. It's also important, to really maybe communicate with someone over what you do have control of and what you don't. So you can get a better understanding of what these things are too. The Mercury will conjunct the sun, and your focus then might be on more internal matters, like, you know, kind of just spending time by yourself, and you might be spending more time just alone. And then Mars will go retrograde on the 7th. And then motivation could be a little bit lower than usual, but it's temporary. You might not have the ability to start new things for a while. Might be good to work, work whatever you have been working on, just redo, just rethink it, reimagine it, do things that you're already working on and don't try to start new things. That's the best thing you can do at this point. And then Jupiter will oppose the sun on the 7th. And it's a great time for, being focused again on internal matters, on what's going on in your head, what's going on in your psyche. Well, how are your emotions and things like that. Then when Venus conjuncts Pluto also on the 7th, that can bring, you know, power and control issues around the home. But it can also bring more intensity as well. And then Venus will oppose Mars on the 12th. So it might be difficult to stay out of arguments, especially especially with coworkers or in the home. But negotiation can really help you to resolve these issues so they don't keep coming back. And then on the 12th, also there's the Gemini full moon. And it's a great time to complete things you've been working on. Maybe, especially when it comes to higher education, travel. So it might be a good time to, you know, go on a trip. Although when Mars and Mercury are both retrograde, maybe maybe that can also bring more difficulties around trips. So it could be a good time to start planning a trip for the future too. And then the sun will square Neptune on the 18th. And you might have some things coming out that have been hidden around relationships. Or your relationships, you know, somebody that you're in a relationship with could start giving you more information than they usually do, instead of keeping things from you. On the 24th or on the 19th, we have the Venus trine Jupiter, which could, help you to just have more fun in your relationships and taking care of yourself could also be kind of important right now. The 24th, on the 24th, Saturn square Jupiter could bring difficulties around your health, your work, or your pets. Or, it could also be that you need to start changing your diet, and because something comes up that makes you realize how important it is for you to quit smoking or change your diet or eat healthier or exercise more. Um, then on the on the 27th, Mercury will square Saturn, which can bring restrictions or roadblocks around your intuition, around your ability to spend time by yourself to replenish yourself if that's something you need. Then on the 31st, there's the Capricorn new moon, which is a good time to initiate changes around your self-image, around your appearance. Although I would say, it wouldn't be a bad time to make an appointment, but it's definitely until the 23rd is not the best time to have elective surgeries. Of course, surgeries that are not elective, you know, you got to follow what your doctor says. So that's all I have for Capricorn. Now I'm moving on to Aquarius. I think I'm moving on to Aquarius. There we go. Okay, then on the first, Sagittarius new moon, it's a great time to plant seeds for, friends, your social networks, and people, like-minded people. So maybe starting a new social network or setting up a new thing where you meet once a month with your friends or that kind of thing. And then Venus will trine Uranus on the 2nd. So there could be sudden and surprising changes around things that you don't have control of. So this could be something that's completely out of your control that changes in your life. And it's it's important to know what you do have control of and what you don't. And this might actually help you to realize that too. Then on the 4th, the sun will square Saturn, and restrictions or difficulties around siblings, neighbors, transportation could come up right now. Could bring blockages around that. Maybe you won't have maybe one of your siblings is moving so far away that you won't be able to see them as much, or just going temporarily to a place that's further away. Um, or maybe one of your neighbors is moving away. Then on the 4th, also, Venus will go into Aquarius, and you might be tempted to really change how you look or your your appearance in some way, or your physical body. But definitely wait until after the Mars Mars retrograde if you can, especially for elective things. Changing, but changing your how you dress and things like that, changing your hair, that's perfectly fine right now. And then on the 4th, also, Mercury will oppose Jupiter. And, you know, I mean, this is likely to be a pretty good aspect. There could be a lot of communication around friends and your social groups, social networks, and people of like-minded people, people who think like you do. Um, then on also on the 4th, Mercury will, well, actually, the only thing with this aspect is, the communication can be a little overwhelming or too much, but it's most likely to just be spending time with your friends and your social people, people of like-minded, people. And then on the 5th, Mercury will conjunct the sun. Communication might be quite the focus now, especially when it comes to friends and social groups. Um, so yeah, this is kind of a highlighted time to really spend time with friends. And Mars will go retrograde in Leo on until the 23rd of February. So that could bring your motivation down a little bit. And on the 7th, Jupiter will oppose the sun. So it's a good time to be focused on children or love relationships or creativity too, or, anything like acting or anything where you're um, being creative or showing off in a way. And then also on the 7th, Venus will conjunct Pluto. And it might help you, feel especially powerful, especially when it comes to your body. Um, and others might see you more powerfully too. Others might see you that way. You might feel more powerful. Um, then on the 12th, Venus will oppose Mars, and there could be struggles um, with long-term relationships or business partners. But, keep in mind at this point, you can negotiate and come to agreements that you might not be able to at other times. Okay. Then the Gemini full moon on the 12th will it's a good time to bring things out into the world, present things, especially when it comes to relationships. On the 18th, the sun will square Neptune, and things that were previously hidden might become visible, especially when it comes to friends and social networks, groups of like-minded people. Then Venus will trine Jupiter on the 19th, and enjoy this aspect because it's a great time to spend time with your children, with people in love relationships, and being creative is really great at this time too. And on the 24th, Saturn will square Jupiter, and that could bring difficulties or restrictions around debt, taxes, um, power and control, and or income from your business or inheritance. Then on the 27th, Mercury will square Saturn, and that could limit your income or your possessions, or bring roadblocks or some kind of limitations around that area. And then on the 31st, the Capricorn new moon, it's a good time for initiating things in your neighborhood or with your siblings. Okay, so again, you know, it's an interesting month, and I'd like to see how it plays out. That's all I had for the month. Visit my website at logicalastrology.com and make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks, and have a great month. Oops, I almost forgot to do Pisces. So for Pisces, um, the Sagittarius new moon, it's a great time for planting seeds or starting new things around your career or public image. Then on the 2nd, Venus trine Uranus, unexpected and positive changes around friends, social groups, um, are are likely to be interesting and different, and you might find new social groups that you wouldn't have expected to be involved with. And then on the 4th, Sun trine Saturn could bring restrictions around your career. And it could make things a little different, a little difficult. You could have roadblocks, so you'll need a little extra patience right now. And then on the 4th, Venus will go into Aquarius. And you might be more spontaneous with your relationships with friends or social networks. And then Mercury will oppose Jupiter on the 4th again, and this is a time when communication could be a little bit much, a little bit overwhelming, especially where home and family are concerned. And then Mercury will conjunct the sun on the 5th, and that might bring more communication around your career. Then on the 6th, Mars will go retrograde till February 23rd, 2025. And we're already in the pre-retrograde shadow. So whatever you've been working on for the last 2 or 3 weeks, you might have to redo or rethink, revise in some way. But just be sure to keep that energy as internalized as you can, by using exercise or other forms of Martian energy that aren't destructive. Because yeah, when Mars is retrograde, things can build up, and you don't want to let this energy go outside because it can cause problems for you. And then Jupiter will oppose the sun on the 7th, and it's a good time for focusing on your home and family. And it might be a little hard to balance home and family versus career. You might want to focus a little bit more on home. So it's good to have that balance, but it might be difficult at this time. And then also on the 7th, Venus will conjunct Pluto, and that could really make your intuition much stronger, much more powerful. And on the 12th, Venus will oppose Mars, and that could bring difficulties or arguments around health or other things like that. And then on the 12th, Venus will oppose Mars, and that could bring arguments, especially around work, health. And if you really are willing to negotiate, this is a time when you can really come to some agreements. On the 12th, Gemini full moon is a good time to complete things or show the world what you've been working on, especially when it comes to home and family. And then on the 18th, the sun will square Neptune. And there might be things that were previously hidden that now are going to be visible, especially in the area of career and public image. And Venus will trine Jupiter on the 19th. And this should be a really good aspect. It should help us to feel good and have fun during the holidays with our family and friends. And then on the 24th, the Saturn square Jupiter can bring restrictions around home and family. And also, bring in kind of a reality check around how much money we've spent during the holidays on that home and family. Then on the 27th, Mercury will square Saturn, and some limitations around your career can make things difficult. And then the Capricorn new moon is a good time for friends and social groups and to meet new people. All right, so that that is it for the month. That's it for Pisces. And I hope everyone has a great month. And again, make sure you go visit my website at logicalastrology.com because there's lots of goodies there.